Demon Slayer is one of, if not the most popular anime going on right now as of 2025, especially since its new movie came out, which is the first of the trilogy, which will be the final season. And honestly, as you already know, as what kickstarted my channel, I'm a huge fan, and I have finally come around to make a Demon Slayer tier list. Now, as I mentioned before in my previous 2 videos, that I've been thinking of making Demon Slayer Golden Takes for a while, pretty much ever since I started the Golden Take series, but there wasn't really much. I didn't really know what to make, what Demon Slayer Golden Takes, hot takes to make, since, you know, the anime is so simple and short. But today we will be doing a tier list, but not just a traditional Demon Slayer tier list where it's just ranking all the Hashira or ranking the upper moons, which are already ranked themselves in its own show. Today I will be challenging myself to ranking the breathing styles, because I think that is more unique and more complicated than simply just ranking the Hashira or the 12 Kizuki, which are already ranked. Now, since it's kind of difficult to rank the breathing styles, since they're kind of, at least with the unique ones, more so based on their user, I'm going to be segregating, as we normally do with the Golden Takes and tier lists, the rankings into 3 different categories. Numero uno being learnability. The easier it is to learn the breathing style, it's probably going to be lower on the list, because, you know, it's just easy to learn, easier to learn, meaning it's kind of less unique, less special, probably not as powerful or not as interesting or cool, or I guess lore-full, is that even a word, as other breathing styles. With the second category being power. Basically, how powerful is the breathing style? Simple as that. How hard it punchy. Now, this is going to be pretty difficult because a lot, like I mentioned before, a lot of the breathing styles are based on the user strength. So I'm gonna basically be challenging myself to try to explain the power of the breathing style without just straight up explaining the power of the user. And then finally, the third category, probably the most important, honestly, practicality. Basically, how useful it is in battle. Again, this is kind of going to be a little bit of a challenge to separate it from the user, but I think there's enough descriptions in the manga itself and in the anime, of course, that, and just by you know, looking at it, like the fundamentals of the form, that I'll be able to rank these fairly, at least as much as I can. So with that being said, if you are ready to get into this just as much as I am, maybe you'll learn something new, then make sure to like, comment, subscribe to join GOD, and to know you like this type of content. And since you like this type of content, make sure to turn on post notifications so you don't miss the content that you literally liked. And last but not least, tell a friend or a family member. It can be anybody. It can be your brother, sister, niece, nephew, son, daughter, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, granddad. Now, as you can see how we always do these tier lists, these are Dokkan ratings, and also as you can see, I'm using Opera GX now instead of Chrome. I'm really a gamer now. Okay, but anyways, but that's besides the point. So as we always do these tier lists, these are Dokkan or Legends ratings. So you have Z, which is like peak breathing style, perfect all the way around. Okay, 0 flaws basically. This is Legends Limited, as in Legends, Dragon Ball Legends. But basically this would be like our legendary. So it's not flawless, it's not peak, but damn near, it's up there. This is ultra rare. Basically it's ultra, so it's basically just a little bit less than legendary. So you know what I'm saying, super duper rare, super rare. This is basically our superb. Okay, so this is superb. It's great. Okay, this is great slash, well, this will be more like great. This is kind of good. And then SR is like mid. Well, I guess R would be mid, but SR is kind of our decent, slightly above average. That's basically SR or super rare. Then you have rare, which is basically like literally mid. So this is mid, average, slightly below average. And then you have N, which is, it's basically not like trash, because I don't think any of the breathing styles are trash. It's kind of just simple. I mean, I know all the Demon Slayer are simple, I know, but simple in the sense of just like, it's not really special, unique, anybody can learn it, and it's kind of just like a base, it's just like a foundation. So it's not really special in and of itself, but it's kind of like a foundation, right? Now I'm not going to go in order. I'm going to try to go bottom to top so that we can, kind of build up, because this is a ranking, but I wanted to do it in like our tier list fashion, how we always do it, rather than doing it. Plus I think that make it more interesting rather than just doing, I don't think there's one that's just straight up stronger than the other. Some of them are like too impossible to tell which is better and which is not, right? You know what I'm saying? Some of them I think are equal. I don't think that every single one is better than the one behind it, if that makes sense. So anyways, starting off, coming in last place, which I know might piss a lot of people off, water breathing. Now I know, Goody, how can you say that? That's Daddy Giyu. And personally, he's my favorite character. Okay, I got his sword in real life, IRL, and everything. I got a figurine of him, and it's also the main character's ability. It's the first one he learned. Everybody knows water breathing. Everybody learned Kodaki, Sabito, Murata. But that's exactly the point. It's literally the foundation breathing style. The main character learns it. It's the easiest one to learn. It's stated to be the easiest one to learn. Even Murata can learn it. Giyu just so happens to be proficient at it enough to he added his own additional form, the 11th form. Water breathing is as strong as the user makes it, right? And fun fact, water breathing has the most known users of the form in Demon Slayer in the manga, with like 7 people. 7 people know the form, so that's more than any other form, right? Everybody else is like 1 person knows it, 2 people know it. By far, water breathing is the easiest one to learn, with 7 people known in the Demon Slayer story that use water breathing, including Murata and Sabito. Well, I guess I'll just name them: Kodaki, Giyu, Sabito, Makumo, Tanjiro, Murata, and Ao, as in the medic girl that lives in the butterfly mansion with Shinobu, and she heals Tanjiro and the gang every time they come back from mission. That Ao, you're seeing a picture of her on screen. She was a previous water breathing user, but then she retired from being a slayer and just focused on helping out at the butterfly mansion as an aide. It has 10 forms, which I'm not going to sit here and name all the forms. Okay, that's kind of besides the point, but I will explain how water breathing is used briefly. But yeah, it has 10 forms, and then Giyu created another form, created the 11th form, but he created his own unique personal form called Dead Calm, where basically he's calmly just slashing everything around him in like this bubble area. Basically he has like the rotation Byakugan thing, so everything around him just gets sliced up, but he's like calmly doing it, right? So like demons don't feel pain when they get hit by a dead calm. Water breathing is obviously derived from sun breathing, and what it takes from sun breathing is the maneuverability of sun breathing. So basically the ability to adapt, or kind of like a professional athlete being able to stop on a dime and change direction. It's all about flexibility, it's all in the wrist, right? It's like water dancing basically. And so that's why it's at the bottom, because of all those reasons I just previously stated. Coming up next, which again might also piss some people off, we have beast breathing. The reason I put it here in R, basically mid and not N, is because it's unique to Inosuke. Now, beast breathing, if you don't know, comes from wind breathing. And of course, as I mentioned before, it has one known user in the entire story, which is Inosuke, which he created himself. Well, we just assume he created himself from him living and growing up in the mountains. He developed beast breathing when he became a demon slayer. Now, beast breathing, since it is based off wind breathing, is basically kind of just wind breathing, but it has a bit more, I guess, beastly aspect to it. And like wind breathing, it is very aggressive and forceful breathing style. But unlike wind breathing, it is also extremely unpredictable, right? It's supposed to mimic a beast's behavior. I mean, it's called beast breathing, so it's very unpredictable. It's all about moving around, fierce attacks. Pretty much the forms kind of represent different beasts, I guess, in different ways to slay a demon, right? And also using the senses of a beast to, like spatial awareness, where you sense with his beast senses, he can sense everything around him, kind of like a Byakugan, and tell where demons are just with his spidey senses are tingling. Now, even after all that I just said, you're probably still thinking, well, well, after all that super awesomeness that you just explained, how is it still this low? Well, because we have, a better version of beast breathing, wind breathing. So, if we just have a better version, this other version is going to be kind of lower. And I know only one person has been seen to, be able to learn it. I feel like Tanjiro grew up in the mountains. So I feel like Tanjiro potentially learned beast breathing. Since a lot of Demon Slayers, especially at this era, during the Taisho era, a lot of Demon Slayers grew up in rural or mountainous areas. Really, any of the Demon Slayers would be able to learn this form, especially since it's technically never been stated that you have to grow up in the mountains to learn this breathing form. And we just assume Inosuke invented it, but it's never really stated that he invented it. At least I don't think. But anyways, moving on. And honestly, actually, I kind of messed up. So pretend I did this next one before beast breathing. So next up, or previously next up, just rewind a little bit. And next up, we have thunder breathing. Right under beast breathing. To me, honestly, they're kind of interchangeable, especially since I know I said I was going to separate from the users. From what we've seen from both users, Inosuke and Zenitsu are pretty equal. You can maybe say Zenitsu is a bit stronger. Zenitsu and Inosuke are shown throughout the entire story that they're essentially equal, but taking away the users and just looking at the breathing styles, I think they're still pretty interchangeable. I still would put thunder breathing below beast breathing. One of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, is because anybody can really learn it. Well, maybe not anybody, but it's one of the original 5 breathing forms, one of the basic foundational breathing forms, besides sun breathing. It is a splinter of sun breathing, and it takes the quickness and the speed of sun breathing, right? There are 3 known users. It has 6 forms, which Zenitsu, kind of like Giyu did with water breathing, created a 7th form exclusive to himself, that being God of Fire and Thunder. As I mentioned before, it has 3 known users: Jigoro, which is Gramps, Kaigaku, who obviously later becomes Upper Moon 6, and then Zenitsu. Now, thunder breathing is based off the real-life sword style called Iai Jutsu, which is basically a quick draw of the katana, so quick that it generates lightning, right? It's lightning speed. A quick single slash, right? Before the enemy can even see it. But that's basically Iai Jutsu. It's quick slashes from the sheath, from the scabbard, or whatever it's called. We see it in the show. I don't even really need to explain it, but it's just called Iai Jutsu in real life. Now, thunder breathing is, like I mentioned before, quick lightning-like slashes, which is why when Zenitsu uses his thunder breathing form, he's basically moving in straight lines, like at lightning speed, which I'm pretty sure he actually is moving at the speed of lightning, but he's obviously not generating real lightning. It's just moving at the speed of lightning, which is not the speed of light, so don't get that confused. But because of it being one of the foundational forms, there's 3 known users, and it's pretty simple to learn. I know you can just look at Zenitsu and be like, well, he had a hard time, but that's because he's Zenitsu. You know how he is in the show, right? But Kaigaku was able to learn all the forms besides the first one, even though Kaigaku says that, he claims to be talented himself. I don't know if we can really take his word for it. He kind of is an arrogant prick, but Jigoro knows all the forms. I have thunder breathing below beast breathing. So next up, which pains me personally, and maybe some of y'all, okay, because I'm a huge fan of Muichiro. He's my second favorite Hashira. Next up, behind Giyu, of course, he's my glorious king. Mist breathing. Mist breathing, of course, is used by the Hashira Muichiro Tokito. Mist breathing is a splinter of wind breathing. Mist breathing has 6 forms, with the 7th one, obscuring clouds, being created by Muichiro himself because of his memory loss, right? The fog in his mind. Now, as I just said, Muichiro created the 7th form, and you're probably under the impression that Muichiro created this form himself, but actually Muichiro didn't create the mist breathing form, because as stated by the wiki, and even in images we see in the manga from flashbacks to the Sengoku era where Yurichi, came to be, among the other Hashiras that was with Yurichi, we can see a Demon Slayer that has the same cloud-like mark that Muichiro had, symbolizing that either he's the creator or has kind of always been around. But we assume probably he's the creator. He was with Yoriichi, and Yoriichi had to each teach everybody their own breathing styles, or they learn their own breathing styles based off of sun breathing. So since he was there with Yoriichi, he probably was the cultivator. Mist breathing is based off of, well, mist. The reason why Muichiro wears baggy clothing is so that basically it's all about hiding your movements in the mist. So since you have baggy clothing, it's kind of hard to tell where you're moving because you have baggy clothing. So you can't really see the outline of your body beneath the baggy clothing. It's supposed to hide your movements, right? It's supposed to obscure your vision. And it's pretty much purely defensive, right? Which is the opposite of wind breathing. But it's pretty much purely defensive. And as you can see with when Muichiro fights, he's fighting very defensively and only really attacks when he has openings, because it's supposed to hide in the fog and bait in the demon and hit them in their literal blind spot, because they can't see because all the fog. Well, I guess they can see because the breathing styles, they're not real, man. That's what the form is all about. And because of that reason, and because also it's not really unique to Muichiro, as I mentioned before, I'm putting it just above beast breathing. I know the wind breathing users not doing so well right now. I think it's one of the coolest forms, one of the more practical forms. As I mentioned, the fundamentals of the form, it's very practical. It's it's very stealthy. I mean, it's mist. It's literally using a smoke screen as a breathing style. So it's very practical. And unlike beast breathing, it uses its surroundings, right, in order to gauge how they should attack their opponent, which would be a demon. Moving on to our next form, probably not too many people know that much about flower breathing. Flower breathing is, of course, a splinter from water breathing, and there are two known users. Kanao, who's, Tanjiro's little shawty, you know what I'm saying? And Shinobu's older sister, Kanae. Flower breathing, like as I mentioned before, is a splinter of water breathing, one of the 5 foundational breathings besides sun breathing. Now, flower breathing is based off of, flowers, more specifically a perennial flower, which are flowers that bloom. Its attacks kind of look like a blooming flower, if you will, and you're probably going to see an image of it on screen so you know exactly what I'm talking about. It slashes and thrusts that appear as a blooming flower. Not only that, it has a freaking Sharingan form, essentially the Sharingan flower breathing users are able to sacrifice one or both eyes for essentially enhanced vision, which is basically a Sharingan. Not transparent world, which would be the Byakugan. Don't really have to explain it, but basically it's just you can see your opponent's moves better. You can't copy your opponent's moves, but basically you're able to see. It's a Sharingan. You're able to see better. God damn it. With that being said, it has 7th forms, and the reason I'm putting it above mist breathing is because you have to sacrifice your eyes. And when I say sacrifice your eyes, I'm talking about Sharingan, you go blind in that eye. In order to use flower breathing to its peak potential, you have to literally go blind. Which is gang, how am I supposed to fight if I gotta be blind? That just speaks to the testament of flower breathing users. Even when they blind, they're they're like Itachi. They blind as shit. They can still cook. That's not just specific to Kanao. That all flower breathing users go blind. Well, in order to use the form to its peak potential, you got to go blind. Again, there are also only 2 known users in both mist and flower breathing. Also, actually, I'm pretty sure this is love breathing. So this is flower breathing. I messed that up. This is flower breathing. See, that's Kanao right there. Now, speaking of Kanae, let's go after her sister. Whoa, hold up, wait, that sounded crazy. Hold up, pause. Next up, we have insect breathing. Now, I kind of did this out of order because I kind of want this to be below mist breathing. Because let me explain insect breathing. Initially, you think, okay, it's kind of broken. You can just every stab or slice poisons the op. But that's really only specific to Shinobu, because Shinobu has stated herself that she has weak arms, and she's actually stated to be the physically weakest Hashira. Physically, not in terms of power, but physically in terms of physical, strength. That being said, she has to use a rapier, which is basically a very thin sword, but the rapier isn't strong enough to cut off demons' heads, so she has to lace her sword in not really, so that every time she slashes a demon, it poisons them, usually aiming around the neck area to where it deteriorates that, and then it basically fundamentally cuts off their head. But poison only really applies to Shinobu, especially since she is a medic, so she's already a researcher and studying that anyways, so that doesn't really apply to insect breathing itself, which is mostly fundamentally about stabbing and piercing opponents. 4 forms, and well, it was created by Kocho, unique to Kocho. Now you could say the poison is part of insect breathing because she's the one that created it. I can see both arguments, but either way, unless you're like a master at poison, unless you study poison, you're not really going to use this form. And it's also very impractical because you can't even cut off demons' heads. You have to use a rapier, so it's only really worked for her, and that's why it's low. Because yes, it's harder to learn, but again, I don't even know why you would want to learn it. And again, it's very impractical, which is one of the 3 categories. It's impractical, yeah, it's hard to learn, but I don't even know if you can learn it, and I don't even know if you want to learn it. Like, I don't even know if it's learnable. I think it's very specific to Kocho, right? But that's why I was also debating on where I should put it, because yeah, it's specific to her, it's also not very practical, and I have to remember all 3 categories. And again, it's not powerful. Like, literally, 2 of the categories it's missing, so that's why I have to put it here, and that's why originally I was gonna put it here, but then I had to backtrack. Now, serpent breathing, of course, is a splinter of water breathing, and like with water breathing, it is all about flexibility and adaptability, but it also has 2 features that water breathing doesn't. Unpredictability, alike to beast breathing, it's unpredictability, and also it has a beast of its own, a snake. But it's not like beast breathing where it's just mimicking a beast. Snake breathing, you actually have to deadass have a snake in order to use this form, and that's why I'm putting it so high, because unless you homies with Diddy Maru, your ass is not learning this form. Okay, the Obanai, it's unique, very unique to Obanai. Obanai is the creator of it. It has 5 forms. Obanai, growing up in a cult of women that worshipped this snake deity who would eat all the male children, turns out that snake was a demon, and he was saved by Kyojiro's father, which I believe his name is Shinjiro, the previous flame Hashira. The reason it's not higher is because, again, it is a form of water breathing, so it's basically just water breathing with a snake. And Obanai is one of my favorite Hashira, probably my 3rd favorite Hashira, 3rd or 4th. It kind of in between, kind of interchangeable with Tsunemi. Aside from the user, serpent breathing is essentially just water breathing with a snake, which is why it's not higher. I would put it higher because I really like the form and it's awesome, but again, it is very practical. It's not stated specifically to be powerful, especially since it's kind of actually the opposite of that. It's kind of actually a hindrance because Obanai is monochromatic, I think that's the term, but basically he can only see out of one eye, or that might be monochromatic, might be you can only see one color. Anyways, he can only see out of one eye, which is why he needs a snake. So it's kind of just water breathing, but you're missing an eye. So part of being an unpredictable movement is because you can't even know your own damn moves because you're blind. You're half blind, so you don't even know what you're doing. So which is why you need a snake. Again, why it's not higher. But speaking of flexibility and maneuverability, we have love breathing. It's kind of flower breathing and serpent breathing put together. So Mitsuri, if you don't know, Mitsuri is a user. She's the creator of love breathing, and she learned it from flame breathing, which it is a splinter of, when she was a Sugoku to Rengoku before she became a Hashira, which if you don't know is in Rengoku's Gaiden, or his light novel, where she tries to learn it but she can't really learn it that well because flame breathing is kind of passed down through the Rengoku family, and it's also really hard to learn flame breathing. So she developed love breathing, which is all about flexibility. We've seen it. It's all about flexibility. She uses a whip sword, which is actually a real life sword. I forget what it's called, but it is based off of an Indian whip sword. So basically it's a whip but instead of it being leather, it's steel. And so when you whip somebody, it slices them because it's a sword. It's a whip sword. So it is insanely practical. Again, like I said, it's like water breathing. in the sense of it's very flexible maneuverability. It's hard to hit you. Like mist breathing, it's very hard to hit you, and it's very defensive because basically you can just like do this, kind of like Gyutaro's flying blood sickles. You can create a shield of chain whip swordness and deflect all attacks, kind of like the rotating thing shit in Byakugan Naruto shits. It's very defensive, but it's also equally offensive because that shield is also that you're creating around yourself. It's like a tornado. It's like defensive. You can't get in, but you don't want to get in. You get sliced the F up. That's why placing it higher. Also, only one person has it with it, which is Mitsuri. I don't know if you really can learn it. You probably can. I don't know how hard it is to learn, but you have to be extremely flexible, even more flexible than water breathers and flower breathers. So with that being said, I'm putting it just slightly higher than serpent breathing, even though I think they're somewhat interchangeable, maybe like 60-40, and of course it having 6 forms. Next up, this might piss some people off because this is some people's favorite character. This character, and I didn't know that a manager of Krispy Kreme donuts would be such a lovable guy, but Kyojuro Rengoku, the Flame Hashira, his breathing style being flame breathing. Now, of course, flame breathing, as I mentioned before, is passed down through the Rengoku family, with Kyojuro Rengoku being the current flame, well, I guess not current flame Hashira, but it having 3 known users that we know of in the entire series. Well, technically, actually 4 known users: Kyojuro, his father Shinjiro, his ancestor, the creator of it, which we don't know his name of, but he was there with Yoruichi, and then formerly Mitsuri. She wasn't able to master it, but she's able to use it somewhat, right? And again, love breathing is a splinter of that. Flame breathing is kind of the closest thing you're going to get to sun breathing, well, at least in terms of literal fire aspect. It's based off kendo, which is, obviously probably the most popular Japanese sword style. 2-hand, large, abrasive slashes that burn the opponent. So basically it's big, heavy slashes. You slice through your opponent, right? You step into your slices, right? Kind of like a quarterback in football would step into their throw for maximum power. You would step into your slash for maximum power. So it's not very maneuverable or flexible or even defensive like sun breathing, but it is just straight raw power. Now, it has 9 forms, with the 9th form being specific to the Rengoku family, but I guess the entire form itself is specific to the Rengoku family. The 9th form being called Rengoku, where basically it's what Rengoku used before he, got, promoted as the Krispy Kreme manager, employee of the frickin' month, like he trying to be Ace from One Piece. Just in terms of raw power, I'm putting it this high. Its learnability is low. Only pretty much people in the Rengoku family can learn it, and even then, not even Kyojiro's little brother, I think his name is Senjiro, was able to learn it. And so that's why he took on Kanroji and tried to teach it to Kanroji to be his successor, but even she couldn't learn it. But I mean, she can use it. She's shown to have using it in the light novel, but she can't fully master it. She can't use it to its best ability, and she's not, it doesn't really work with her body physique. Believe it or not, there are stronger forms than flame breathing, one of them being wind breathing. Now I'm putting wind breathing barely above flame breathing. Now, wind breathing is actually, believe it or not, in the manga stated as being the physically strongest breathing style, just in terms of raw power. Now I know you're gonna look at besides sun breathing and I guess moon breathing, it is physically the most powerful, just in terms of raw offensive ability. And I'm gonna get to that in a second, because I know you're probably thinking, well, what about stone breathing? I'ma explain. Wind breathing is one of the 5 foundational breathing forms. It has 2 known users, Senemi and Senemi's homie. When he was a jit, he got packed up by a demon. I believe that we've only seen 6 forms, or at least there were only 6 forms known, but there are 9 total forms, or maybe we've seen 6, but they weren't like 1 through 6. Maybe we just seen 6 out of the 9 in general. But anyways, as I mentioned before, in terms of its raw offensive power, wind breathing is purely offensive. That is because it is so insanely strong. It is one of the hardest ones to learn. Fun fact, the reason Senemi has so many scars on his body is because wind breathing, like I said, is purely offensive. Wind breathing is based off of real life Japanese sword style. Well, they all are. I forgot what it's actually called. Where basically you try to kill your opponent in the first hit. So basically, it's a one-hit kill move. It's a one-hit kill breathing form, which is why Tsunemi has so many scars, is because it has no defensive moves. If you swing your sword, hit your opponent, they don't die, you're basically screwed. You can't block. Or if you swing and miss, you're screwed. Just have to sit there and take it, which is why Tsunemi has so many scars, and he's actually, by Kokushibo himself, stated to be the strongest demon slayer besides Gyome, who uses stone breathing. That is why I'm placing wind breathing where it is now. I should mention I messed up. This will be the last time. Well, I'll show you why I messed up. This photo right here, you see this? This is actually sound breathing, but because it's black and white, I couldn't tell what it is. I thought it was just stone breathing. This is sound breathing, which I'm gonna place right here above love breathing. Now, the reason I do that is because it's pretty much a mix between 3 breathing styles: flame breathing, love breathing, and thunder breathing. It's a splinter of thunder breathing. It has the speed of thunder breathing, flexibility of love breathing, and the raw power of fire breathing. Well, not maxed out stats of these 3, otherwise it'd just be perfect. It has a bit of each of these 3. It has 5 forms, 1 known user being Tengen, who's, well, we don't know if he's the creator of it, but he is the only known user as far as we can tell. Of course, he used to be a ninja, so he also uses ninja tactics, but then again, the ninja tactics side of it, like the grenades, that's unique to him. That's not part of the form. At least I wouldn't consider grenades being part of your breathing style. Same way I wouldn't really call shooting a gun a breathing style. Sound breathing is all about loud, disorienting sounds or very quiet sounds to where your opponent can't even hear it, as you know, you can't hear him when he runs. It's described as banging your swords against your opponent so loud that it's disorientating. Final technique called musical score. You can memorize your opponent's patterns after battling them for so long and turn their battle patterns into a song. So basically you can memorize their patterns and then you can basically beat them because you know exactly what they're going to do. Next up, we have the physically strongest breathing style, that being stone breathing. Now, stone breathing, of course, has 1 known user, Gyome. Well, actually, it's not 1 known user, 2 known users. Gyome, who's the current user, and then the original user, he was there during Yoruichi's time. Stone breathing is one of the hardest to learn. Well, it's kind of pretty much RNG. You got to be born tall and just naturally strong. It doesn't actually use stone or mimic stone. It basically uses the power of the earth, or more specifically, vibrations. So it comes with 2 weapons. That's 4. 2 weapons. It's basically a ball and chain. The axe is kind of just specific to Gyome. You don't actually have to have, it doesn't actually have an axe. You don't always use an axe. It's more so about the ball and chain. But Gyome just uses an axe and a ball and chain. But it's more so about the ball and the chain. It doesn't come with an axe, okay? Anyways, Gyome uses the ball and chain and basically just bashes the shit out of the demon. So it basically just destroys them, just obliterates their head. Okay, just turns them into a red paste of mist. That's not how that works, but you get what I'm saying. And since he's so large, he has like thundering steps, causes vibrations because, he's blind too. So that's also why he needs vibrations so he can feel where the demon is. It's the strongest form besides the next 2, which I'm pretty sure you already know what they are. I mean, they're on the screen. You're looking at them. It's pretty much RNG. You just gotta be born diff. And then it's also still hard to learn, but is not as hard to learn as wind breathing if you do have that build. So if you have a Gyome or Tsunemi build, then it's not that hard to learn. If you don't have that build, then you just straight up can't learn it. So, which is why it's so high, and it's also just has raw power. And I mean, it is fairly practical. It's not the most practical, but if you do have that Gyome build, it is extremely practical if you have the Gyome build. You don't even have to be precise. You just throw the damn big ass ball at it, and the demon dies to miss. And Gyome, moves extremely fast. So it's not slow at all. It's not slow. It's not any slower than any of the other breathing styles. It's very fast still. It keeps up. You don't have to worry about speed. You already know what's number 1, but before I talk about number 1, we gotta talk about number 2. Moon breathing is the second most powerful, is not one of the 5 foundational breathing styles besides sun breathing, because it is a splinter of sun breathing, but literally not a single soul can learn it. Well, I guess that's not entirely true. Do demons have souls? Kokushibo is the only living being that can ever use it, because he's a demon and he never passed it down. If you ever come to face him, he's just gonna kill you. So he's not gonna teach it to you. And even if you do become a demon, he's not gonna teach it to you. So moon breathing was created at the same time as, well, sun breathing, because the user was Kokushibo, or Michikachu, which is Yoruichi's brother, Michikachu Sugikuni. So Michikachu tried to learn sun breathing, only Yoruichi couldn't learn it because he's literally built diff, and so he created moon breathing. And in kind of a petty way, he created 16 forms, which is 3 more forms than sun breathing. It has just straight up raw power, very much maneuverability and flexibility, and it's also extremely ranged. Blends offense and defense almost perfectly. Moon breathing, if you don't know, creates crescent shaped slashes of varying sizes and lengths. So basically, as you can see in this image right here, see, this is his slash. So he swung his sword left to right, but along that slash there are a bunch of different crescent-shaped slashes of varying sizes along the original main slash he did left to right, as you can see right there along my cursor. Every time you swing your sword with moon breathing, but instead of 1 slash, it's like 50, which is why it's one of the most powerful, and it's also why it's so strong defensively, is because basically you can't even really close in because you have 50 different slashes coming towards you of different size, different angles, different lengths. And also offensively, because it's 50 slashes of different lengths, different sizes, they're all coming at you all at the same time. And it's extremely powerful. In the fight with Kokushibo, Kokushibo is seen able to slash pillars with his sword, with his slashes, right, with his moon breathing slashes, because the fight takes place in the Infinity Castle in a temple that is being held up by pillars, and he's able to slash those pillars in half. Yeah, but also Kokushibo's just mad strong as well. And of course, last but not least, definitely not least, actually the most, we have sun breathing. I'm surprised that they didn't use Yoruichi, but I mean, it makes sense because Tanjiro is the main freaking character. But anyways, sun breathing, I mean, we all kind of know all about it already. Well, actually, I'm not sure how much is explained up until this point. But no, it's not Hinokami Kagura. That's just Tanjiro's specific thing. Anyways, it has 13 forms, and the 13 forms is called the Hinokami Kagura. Not sun breathing is Hinokami Kagura. The 13th form specifically is the Hinokami Kagura, because the 13th form is just using all the 12 forms in concession. The 12 forms is the exact number of vital organs that Muzan has: 5 hearts and 7 brains, or 7 hearts and 5 brains. I'm pretty sure it's 5 hearts. Anyways, he has 12 vital organs, and that's why he has 12 forms. And the 13th form is just using all the 12 forms at the same time. Obviously, all the known users are just every head of the Kamado family, which includes Yoruichi, Sumiyoshi, Tanjiro, and yeah, that's it. And on the wiki, it states that Tanjiro's descendants, Kanata and Sumihiko, which are his descendants, like in the post-credit scene of the manga, we never see them use it. Literally, they're just, it like Japan isn't like regular Japan at this point, modern day regular Japan. So I mean, the wiki says they can use it, but I mean, it's literally just a page, and like we don't actually ever see them use it because they're just living normal lives. So sun breathing, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's the perfect breathing style. It's perfect offense, perfect defense, perfect maneuver. It's all of the breathing styles combined. Okay, it's literally all of the breathing styles combined. It's the strongest by far. Ain't nobody can learn it unless you're in the Kamado family or Yoruichi himself. And yeah, Tanjiro actually never fully masters it. I mean, he's able to use all 13 forms, but he can't use it to the extent that Yoruichi can. It is stated that when sun breathing is used against a demon, the demon feels as if they're literally being burned by the sun itself, which is why sun breathing is so damaging, because it's literally harnessing the power of the sunlight to attack demons, which is why it's called sun breathing. It's also really hard to regenerate from, and unless your name is freaking Muzan, you're probably not going to regenerate that quick. So yeah, with that being said, that is the list right there. Let me know your thoughts, if you agree with it or not. I'm going to be making more Demon Slayer golden takes and lists in the future. If you want Demon Slayer content, more tier lists, more golden takes, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to join GLD, be part of the family. And while you're down there, might as well turn on post notifications so you don't miss the content that you literally liked. I wouldn't want you to miss out on the content, and I wouldn't want your friends or family to miss out on the content. So you should let them know. Tell a friend or family member. It could be anybody. Help the content grow, the channel grow, and so you don't have to watch alone. It could be your brother, sister, niece, nephew, son, daughter, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, granddad. My name is Goldie, aka God, and that's all I got for today. So bye bye.